Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Horizon's Edge, watching the stars through the main view screen. He had been in space for 15 years, but the beauty of deep space still amazed him. His crew had been out here for 6 months, mapping new star systems and looking for planets that might support human life. It was peaceful work, the kind that made him forget about the troubles back on Earth. Lisa Grant, his navigator, looked up from her console with excitement in her eyes. She was young, maybe 28, with short brown hair and the kind of energy that kept the whole crew moving forward. She had spotted something unusual on her long-range scanners, something that made her call out to the captain with barely contained excitement. "Captain, you need to see this," Lisa said, her voice carrying across the quiet bridge. "I'm picking up an artificial signal about 2 light hours away. It's not like anything in our databases." Jake walked over to her station, followed by Danny Rodriguez, their chief engineer. Danny was a big man with calloused hands who could fix anything on the ship. He had been with Jake for 8 years, through 3 different missions, and Jake trusted him completely. Amy Wells, their communications officer, also joined them at Lisa's console. Amy was quiet most of the time, but she had the best ears in the fleet when it came to picking up and understanding signals. The signal on Lisa's screen looked like nothing they had ever seen before. It pulsed in patterns that seemed almost musical, with frequencies that jumped around in ways that human technology didn't use. Jake felt his heart start beating faster. In all his years of exploration, they had never found any sign of alien life. If this was what he thought it would change everything for humanity. "Amy, can you make sense of this signal?" Jake asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Amy worked at her console for several minutes, running the signal through every analysis program they had. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she tried different approaches to understanding what they were seeing. Finally, she looked up with wide eyes. "Captain, this is definitely not human," she said. "The mathematical patterns are too complex, and the frequency combinations are beyond our current technology. If I had to guess, I'd say this is some kind of navigation beacon or communication array." Jake made a decision that would change the course of human history. "Set course for the signal source. All hands, prepare for possible first contact with alien intelligence." The journey to the signal source took 18 hours. As they got closer, their sensors began picking up something massive. It was a ship, but unlike anything humans had ever built. The vessel was smooth and curved, about 3 times the size of the Horizon's Edge, with a hull that seemed to shift colors in the starlight. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing with soft blue light. Danny checked and rechecked their weapon systems, though they both knew their small exploration ship was not built for combat. Amy worked on establishing communication protocols while Lisa kept them at a safe distance from the alien vessel. Jake sat in his captain's chair, trying to think through all the possibilities of what might happen next. The alien ship suddenly changed course and moved toward them. It was faster than anything humans had built, crossing the distance between them in minutes instead of hours. Jake ordered red alert, and the bridge lights dimmed to the emergency setting. His crew worked quietly and efficiently, each person focused on their job despite the fear that filled the bridge. A new signal came through Amy's communications array, and this time it was clearly directed at them. The signal was complex but seemed to contain mathematical sequences that suggested intelligence. Amy worked frantically to establish some kind of communication link while the alien ship moved closer to their position. "Captain, they're trying to communicate," Amy reported. "I'm getting basic mathematical concepts, then what looks like language patterns. They seem to be using some kind of universal translation method." Minutes later, a voice came through their speakers. It was strange, with sounds that human vocal cords could never make, but somehow Amy's equipment was translating it into English. The voice was cold and calculating, without any warmth or emotion. "Human vessel, I am Ambassador Vextar of the Zephyrian Collective. You will prepare to receive our diplomatic team aboard your ship. Resistance will result in your destruction." Jake looked around at his crew. They were scared but ready to follow his orders. He had to make decisions that could affect not just his ship, but possibly all of humanity. After a moment of consideration, he opened the communication channel. "Ambassador Vextar, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Horizon's Edge. We welcome peaceful contact with your people. However, we will need to follow certain protocols before allowing anyone aboard our ship." The response came back immediately, and the voice sounded annoyed. You are in no position to make demands, primitive human. Your vessel is inferior to ours in every way. You will comply with our requirements or face immediate termination. Jake felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice calm and professional. We are explorers, not soldiers. We come in peace, but we will not be threatened. If you wish to establish diplomatic relations, we are willing to meet on neutral ground. What happened next changed everything. The alien ship fired some kind of energy weapon that disabled the Horizon's Edge completely. Their engines shut down, their weapons went offline, and their life support systems began failing. In seconds, they went from being explorers to being prisoners. Danny worked desperately to restore power, while Amy tried to send a distress signal to Earth. Lisa monitored the alien ship as it extended some kind of docking tube toward their vessel. Jake realized that they were about to be boarded by aliens who had already shown hostile intentions. The last thing Jake saw before the aliens came aboard was Amy's hands flying over her console, trying to send one final message to Earth. She was encoding a warning about the aliens and their location, hoping that somehow the message would get through their ship's failing systems. Then the airlock opened, and their lives as free humans came to an end. 3 months had passed since the Horizon's Edge disappeared in deep space. Earth's government had received Amy Wells's desperate warning message, though it was broken and hard to understand. The message spoke of hostile aliens who had captured their ship and learned Earth's location. President Patricia Walsh had immediately called together her top advisors to prepare for what might be coming. Ryan Cooper, Secretary of Defense, had spent those 3 months preparing Earth's military for the unknown. He was a former Marine general who believed in being ready for any threat. Helen Parker, Secretary of State, had worked on creating diplomatic protocols for alien contact. She was a skilled negotiator who hoped that any aliens who came to Earth might be willing to talk before fighting. Kevin Liu, Chief of Staff, had coordinated intelligence gathering and tried to figure out what kind of technology they might be facing. The waiting ended on a Tuesday morning when space monitoring stations around the world detected massive energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. Admiral Susan Drake, commander of Earth's Space Defense Forces, watched from the command center as more and more alien ships appeared on their screens. The fleet was enormous, with over 500 vessels of different sizes and designs. President Walsh stood in the Situation Room deep beneath the White House, surrounded by military officers and government officials. The main screen showed the alien fleet holding position near Pluto. Each ship was larger than anything Earth had ever built, and their combined firepower could probably destroy every human settlement in the solar system. Admiral Drake's voice came through the communication system with tension clearly audible. Madam President, we're looking at 12 different ship designs which suggest multiple alien species working together. Their technology appears to be centuries ahead of ours. Our best estimates say they could reach Earth in less than 48 hours if they choose to advance. Before President Walsh could respond, every communication device on Earth began receiving the same signal. Television broadcasts were interrupted, radio stations went silent, and computer networks around the world displayed the same message. The signal was coming from the alien fleet, and it was directed at all of humanity. The voice that spoke was translated into every human language simultaneously, but it carried in coldness that made people around the world stop what they were doing and listen. The speaker identified himself as Council Speaker Yilmoth, representing something called the Galactic Council. His words were chosen carefully to make humans understand their complete helplessness. Primitive species of the third planet, you are hereby notified that your world has been claimed by the Galactic Council for resource extraction and population management. Your resistance to our initial diplomatic contact has been noted and will be considered during your processing. You have 72 hours to surrender your military forces and prepare for council administration. The message continued with details that made everyone in the Situation Room realize how thoroughly the aliens had studied human civilization. They knew about Earth's governments, its military capabilities, and its population centers. They spoke about humans the way farmers might discuss livestock, with no consideration for human rights or dignity. Your species will be relocated to designated worlds where you can serve useful purposes within Council space. Your planet's resources will be harvested efficiently. Those who cooperate will be treated according to Council standards for primitive species. Those who resist will be eliminated. This is not negotiation. This is notification of council policy. When the message ended, the Situation Room was completely silent. President Walsh looked around at her advisors, seeing fear and anger in their faces. Ryan Cooper was the first to speak, his voice filled with barely controlled rage. Madam President, they're talking about enslaving the entire human race. We can't let that happen, no matter what the cost. I recommend we mobilize every military asset we have and prepare to fight. Helen Parker shook her head, her diplomatic training making her look for alternatives. We need to consider our options carefully. Their fleet is massive and we don't know anything about their capabilities. Maybe we can negotiate some kind of arrangement that protects human lives. Kevin Liu pulled up intelligence reports on his tablet, showing the data they had gathered about the alien fleet. The analysis suggests that each of those ships could probably destroy one of our cities with a single shot. If we fight them directly, we'll lose everything. But if we surrender, we lose our freedom forever. President Walsh walked to the window and looked out at the Washington skyline. Somewhere up there, an alien fleet was waiting for humanity's response. She thought about her children, about all the children on Earth and what kind of future they would have under alien rule. The decision she made in the next few minutes would determine the fate of every human being alive. She turned back to her advisors with determination in her voice. Get me a direct communication link to their fleet. I'm going to respond to their ultimatum personally. 20 minutes later, President Walsh sat at a desk in the White House press room, facing cameras that would broadcast her message to the alien fleet and to every human being on Earth. Behind her stood the American flag, and beside it the flag of the United Nations. She had decided that her response would represent not just America, but all of humanity. I am President Patricia Walsh of the United States of America, speaking on behalf of all the people of Earth. We have received your ultimatum and we reject it completely. Earth will not surrender to threats or submit to slavery. We are a free people, and we will remain free regardless of the cost. She paused, knowing that her next words might start a war that humanity could not win. You have given us 72 hours to surrender. Instead, I am giving you 72 hours to leave our solar system and never return. If you choose to stay and fight, you will discover that humans are not as helpless as you believe. The response from the alien fleet came within minutes. One of their smaller ships broke formation and moved toward Earth's moon. Without any warning, it fired a single beam of energy that completely destroyed Luna Base, the largest human settlement outside Earth. 15,000 people died in seconds, vaporized along with the research station they had called home. The message that followed was brief and final. Your defiance has been noted. Prepare for conquest. Resistance will only increase your suffering. President Walsh watched the destruction of Luna Base on the main screen, her heart breaking for the families who had just lost everything. But instead of despair, she felt a cold anger settling in her chest. The aliens had made their choice, and now humanity would make theirs. She turned to Ryan Cooper and gave the order that would change everything. General Cooper, activate all defense protocols. Contact Admiral Drake and tell her to implement Operation Last Stand. If they want to fight, we'll give them one they'll never forget. Outside the White House, air raid sirens began wailing across Washington. Around the world, similar sirens announced that humanity was going to war against impossible odds. But in military bases and research facilities that most people had never heard of, secret projects that had been theoretical for decades suddenly became humanity's only hope for survival. Admiral Susan Drake stood on the bridge of the flagship Liberty's Dawn, watching as the most advanced fleet Earth had ever assembled prepared for battle. The aliens had no idea what they were about to face, and Susan intended to keep it that way until the fighting started. For 60 years, Earth's governments had secretly prepared for this exact situation, building weapons and developing strategies for fighting an enemy with superior technology. The Terran Defense Fleet looked small compared to the massive alien armada, but appearances could be deceiving. Hidden throughout the solar system were weapon platforms that the aliens had not detected, automated defense systems that could strike without warning, and experimental technologies that had never been tested in actual combat. Susan had spent her entire career preparing for this moment, and she was ready to show the galaxy what humans could do when they fought for their survival. Captain Tony Barnes commanded a squadron of stealth fighters stationed near the asteroid belt. His ships were invisible to alien sensors, coated with materials that absorbed energy instead of reflecting it. Tony had been a test pilot before the war began, flying experimental aircraft that pushed the boundaries of human engineering. Now he waited in the darkness between Mars and Jupiter, ready to strike the first blow against humanity's enemies. The alien fleet began moving toward Earth, confident in their overwhelming superiority. Council Admiral Corthon led the invasion force from his massive dreadnought, expecting to crush human resistance within hours. His species, the Draknari, had conquered dozens of worlds, and he saw no reason why Earth should be any different. The humans had primitive weapons and limited space capabilities, nothing that should pose a threat to Council forces. But Admiral Corthon had made a critical mistake. He assumed that humans would fight like every other species the Council had encountered, using conventional tactics and traditional weapons. He had no understanding of human creativity, adaptability, or the desperate determination that came from fighting for their homeworld. The first lesson in human warfare was about to begin. Tony Barnes received his attack order as the alien supply convoy passed through the asteroid belt. His squadron of 12 fighters moved like ghosts through space, approaching the alien ships from angles that their sensors could not detect. The convoy consisted of 6 large vessels carrying fuel and ammunition for the main fleet, protected by only a few escort fighters. The attack began without warning. Tony's squadron fired quantum torpedoes that phased through normal matter, but became solid when they reached their targets. The alien supply ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light, their cargo detonating in chain reactions that lit up the asteroid belt. Before the alien escorts could respond, the human fighters had already vanished back into the darkness. Admiral Corthon watched the destruction of his supply convoy with disbelief. His sensors had detected nothing before the attack, and they could find no trace of the enemy ships afterward. The humans were using technology that the Council had never encountered, weapons that behaved in ways that violated his understanding of physics. For the first time since the invasion began, he felt a moment of uncertainty. On Earth, Dr. Maria Santos worked frantically in a laboratory buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. She led a team of the world's best computer scientists and quantum physicists, and they were attempting something that had never been tried before. They had discovered that the alien fleet used a quantum communication network to coordinate their movements, and Maria believed they could turn that network against them. The quantum virus that Maria's team was developing would spread through the alien communication system like a disease, infecting every ship in their fleet simultaneously. Once activated, it would cause their own systems to malfunction in ways that would cripple their ability to fight. The virus was designed to make their weapons target their own ships, their navigation systems send them into collision courses, and their life support systems fail at critical moments. Lisa Grant, the navigator from the captured Horizon's Edge, had been rescued during a prisoner exchange 3 weeks earlier. The intelligence she provided about alien technology had been crucial to developing countermeasures. She now worked with Maria's team, helping them understand how the alien systems functioned and where they might be vulnerable. The first major battle began near Jupiter, where Admiral Drake had positioned her main battle group. The alien fleet approached in perfect formation, their ships moving in coordinated patterns that demonstrated their technological superiority. But Susan had studied every piece of intelligence about alien tactics, and she had prepared a surprise that would change the nature of the war. As the alien ships entered weapons range, Susan gave the order for Operation Swarm. Thousands of small drones emerged from hidden positions throughout the Jupiter system, each one no larger than a fighter but equipped with advanced AI systems that allowed them to operate independently. The drones were designed to replicate themselves using materials from asteroids and space debris, creating an ever-growing cloud of defenders around Earth's outer planets. Admiral Corthon watched in amazement as his sensors detected more and more human drones appearing seemingly from nowhere. His fleet's weapons were designed to fight large ships, not swarms of small, fast-moving targets. The drones attacked in coordinated groups, using their numbers to overwhelm individual alien vessels while staying too dispersed for area-effect weapons to be effective. Captain Elena Foster commanded the human cruiser, Defiance Pride, one of the most advanced ships in Earth's fleet. Her vessel was equipped with kinetic bombardment systems that could accelerate small projectiles to incredible speeds using magnetic fields. When these projectiles hit alien ships, they punched through their advanced shields like bullets through paper, causing massive damage from pure kinetic energy. Elena's ship engaged a council destroyer that was 3 times its size, using hit-and-run tactics that frustrated the alien commander. The human ship would appear from behind cover, fire a devastating salvo, then disappear again before the alien weapons could target it effectively. This guerrilla warfare approach was something the Council had never encountered, and their rigid tactical doctrine had no answer for it. Meanwhile, Commander Nick Palmer led a boarding party against an alien supply ship that had been disabled by drone attacks. His Marines were equipped with powered armor that enhanced their strength and speed, allowing them to fight on equal terms with physically superior alien soldiers. The battle inside the alien ship was brutal and personal, the kind of close-quarters combat that humans excelled at, but that most alien species found terrifying. The aliens quickly discovered that humans did not fight like civilized species. They used improvised weapons, fought in places that should have been impossible to defend, and refused to surrender even when facing certain death. Nick's Marines captured the alien ship by using tactics that the Council considered barbaric but that were devastatingly effective. In the confined spaces of a spacecraft, as the battle raged throughout the Jupiter system, Dr. Maria Santos made her final preparations for the quantum virus attack. The virus was ready and she had identified the perfect moment to release it. The alien fleet was in the middle of a major tactical maneuver, with all their ships linked together through their communication network. If her plan worked, every alien vessel would be affected simultaneously. Maria looked around at her team, seeing the mixture of fear and determination in their faces. They were about to attempt something that could save humanity or doom it completely. There was no way to test the virus without alerting the aliens to what they were doing, so they would have only one chance to get it right. She placed her hand on the activation control and spoke to her team with quiet confidence. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every species that the Council has enslaved over the centuries. Today we show the galaxy that freedom is worth any sacrifice. The quantum virus began spreading through the alien communication network, invisible and unstoppable, carrying with it the hopes of an entire world. Dr. Maria Santos watched her computer screens with growing excitement as the quantum virus spread through the alien communication network faster than she had dared to hope. The virus moved from ship to ship in milliseconds, infecting every vessel in the Council fleet before their security systems could detect the intrusion. What happened next would be remembered as the turning point in humanity's war for survival. Admiral Corthan was in the middle of coordinating a massive assault on Earth's outer defenses when his flagship's systems began malfunctioning. Warning lights flashed across his command bridge as his weapon systems started targeting his own escort ships instead of human vessels. Navigation computers began plotting collision courses with nearby Council ships, and life support systems throughout the fleet started shutting down randomly. The chaos spread through the alien fleet like wildfire. Ships that had been moving in perfect formation suddenly found themselves firing on their own allies. Council destroyers collided with their own support vessels as their navigation systems failed. Entire squadrons of fighter craft were launched into space without pilots as their automated systems went completely insane. Admiral Susan Drake watched the alien fleet's self-destruction from the Bridge of Liberty's dawn, hardly believing what she was seeing. Enemy ships were exploding throughout the Jupiter system, not from human weapons but from their own malfunctioning technology. She realized immediately that this was the moment to launch Earth's counterattack while the aliens were helpless and confused. All units, this is Admiral Drake, she broadcast to the entire Terran defense fleet. The enemy is in chaos. Launch Operation Hammerfall immediately. Show them what happens when they threaten Earth. Captain Elena Foster commanded the first wave of the human counterattack, leading a strike force of 30 ships toward the alien flagship. Her vessel, Defiance Pride, had been upgraded with captured alien technology that her engineering team had reverse-engineered during the battle. The ship now carried weapons that combined human ingenuity with alien power sources, creating devastating new combinations of destructive capability. Elena's force encountered little resistance as they approached Admiral Corthan's dreadnought. The massive alien ship was spinning slowly through space, its engines firing randomly as the quantum virus continued to corrupt its control systems. Smaller Council vessels drifted nearby, many of them dark and lifeless as their life support systems had completely failed. Commander Nick Palmer led the boarding assault on the alien flagship, commanding a force of 200 Marines equipped with the best armor and weapons Earth could provide. The Marines had studied alien ship layouts using intelligence gathered from previous battles, and they knew exactly where to strike to cause maximum damage to the enemy's ability to fight. The battle inside the alien dreadnought was unlike anything the Council had ever experienced. Human Marines moved through the ship's corridors like an unstoppable force, using tactics that the aliens found incomprehensible. They fought in teams that covered each other's movements, used improvised explosives to breach doors and walls, and showed absolutely no mercy to enemies who had threatened to enslave their entire species. Lieutenant Colonel Alex Chen led the assault on the ship's command center, fighting his way through waves of alien defenders who were struggling to understand why their own ship was working against them. The aliens were tall and heavily armored, with natural weapons that could tear through metal, but they had never faced humans in close combat before. They discovered that humans fought with a savage determination that their civilized minds could not comprehend. Alex's team reached the command bridge just as Admiral Corthan was trying to regain control of his ship's systems. The alien commander was nearly 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and natural armor that covered his entire body. He had commanded fleets that conquered entire star systems, but he had never faced an enemy like the human soldiers who burst through his bridge doors. The fight between Alex and Admiral Corthan was brief, but brutal. The alien had superior size and strength, but Alex had something that the Council commander could not understand or counter: the absolute refusal to surrender when fighting for his home and family. The human soldier used every dirty trick he had learned in 20 years of military service, fighting with a ferocity that shocked the remaining alien bridge crew into submission. When Admiral Corthan fell, something changed in the morale of both fleets. The Council forces had never seen one of their senior commanders defeated by a primitive species, and many of them began to panic. Human forces throughout the solar system pressed their attacks with renewed vigor, sensing that total victory was now within their reach. Captain Tony Barnes and his stealth fighter squadron emerged from hiding to attack the alien fleet's remaining command ships. His fighters had been resupplied with quantum torpedoes during the battle, and they struck with surgical precision against targets that could still coordinate enemy resistance. Each successful attack further disrupted the Council's ability to organize any kind of effective response. The quantum virus continued to spread its chaos throughout the alien fleet, but Dr. Maria Santos was already working on the next phase of her plan. Her team had discovered that they could not only disrupt alien systems, but actually take control of them. She began the process of turning captured Council ships into weapons that would fight alongside human forces. Within hours, nearly 50 alien vessels had been completely taken over by Maria's virus, their systems reprogrammed to follow human commands. These ships were far more advanced than anything Earth had built, and they gave the human fleet capabilities that matched or exceeded those of the remaining Council forces. The hunters had become the hunted. Admiral Drake coordinated the final phase of the battle from her flagship, directing human and captured alien ships in a coordinated assault on what remained of the invasion fleet. The Council forces that were still functional tried to retreat toward the edge of the solar system, but they found their escape routes blocked by human vessels that had been waiting for exactly this moment. The Battle of Jupiter ended with the complete destruction or capture of over 400 Council ships. Only a few dozen alien vessels managed to escape the solar system, and they were badly damaged and demoralized. The mighty Galactic Council fleet that had arrived to conquer Earth now existed only as wreckage and prisoners. Captain Jake Morrison and the surviving crew of the Horizon's Edge were rescued from a Council prison ship that had been captured during the battle. They had been tortured and interrogated for months, but they had refused to give the aliens any additional information about Earth's defenses. Their intelligence about Council technology and tactics had been crucial to humanity's victory, even though they had not known it at the time. As the immediate threat to Earth ended, President Patricia Walsh addressed the world from the Oval Office. Behind her stood Admiral Drake and Dr. Maria Santos, the heroes who had saved humanity from slavery. But the President's message was not about celebrating victory. It was about preparing for what would come next. "My fellow humans," President Walsh began, her voice carrying to every corner of the Earth through television and radio broadcasts. We have won our first battle against the Galactic Council, but this war is far from over. They will send more fleets, more weapons, more soldiers to try to conquer our world. But we have learned something important today." She paused, looking directly into the camera with determination that inspired confidence in everyone who heard her words. "We have learned that humans are not helpless. We have learned that our creativity, our determination, and our refusal to surrender make us dangerous enemies. And we have learned that the galaxy is full of enslaved species who are waiting for someone to show them that freedom is possible." The President's final words would echo throughout human space for generations to come. The Council made a mistake when they came to Earth. They thought they were conquering a primitive species, but instead they awakened something that will change the galaxy forever. We are no longer just defending our world. We are going to liberate theirs. 6 months after the Battle of Jupiter, Earth had transformed from an isolated planet into the center of a growing rebellion that was spreading across the galaxy. The remnants of the Council invasion fleet huddled at the edge of the solar system, too damaged to retreat but afraid to advance. They sent desperate messages to their homeworlds, begging for reinforcements that would never come, because Earth's forces were systematically destroying the Council's faster-than-light communication networks. President Patricia Walsh stood in her private office, looking out at the Washington skyline, where construction crews were building massive shipyards that would produce humanity's new interstellar fleet. The captured alien technology had been studied, improved, and combined with human engineering in ways that created vessels more advanced than anything the Council possessed. Earth was preparing to take the war to the stars. Admiral Susan Drake reviewed the final preparations for Operation Liberation from her new command center on Luna Base, which had been rebuilt and expanded using alien technology. Her fleet now included over 200 human vessels and nearly 100 captured Council ships that had been reprogrammed to serve Earth's cause. But more importantly, her crews had learned to fight with a combination of human tactics and alien capabilities that made them nearly unstoppable. Dr. Maria Santos had become the most feared human in Council space, though she had never left Earth. Her quantum viruses had spread throughout the galaxy's communication networks, carrying messages of hope to enslaved species and messages of terror to their Council oppressors. Entire star systems had rebelled against Council rule after learning that a primitive species from an unknown world had defeated the mighty invasion fleet. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his new ship, the Horizon's Dawn, watching as the last Council stronghold in the solar system prepared to surrender. He had been given command of Earth's first deep space liberation fleet, with orders to carry the fight directly to Council territory. His crew included many of the same people who had been with him when they first encountered the aliens, but now they were seasoned veterans of a war that had changed them all. Lisa Grant, his navigator, had spent months studying captured alien star charts and learning the locations of Council worlds and military bases. She knew the positions of every major fleet concentration and supply depot within 50 light-years of Earth. Danny Rodriguez, now chief engineer of the entire Liberation Fleet, had overseen the integration of alien and human technology that gave their ships capabilities that the Council could not match. Amy Wells had become Earth's primary expert on alien communication protocols, using her skills to coordinate with resistance movements throughout Council space. She had established contact with dozens of enslaved species who were ready to fight for their freedom if Earth's forces could provide the weapons and leadership they needed to succeed. The final Council surrender came on a cold morning in December, transmitted by Admiral Corthan's replacement, a broken Draknari commander named Vexthul, who had watched his entire career destroyed by a species he had thought was harmless. His message was brief and filled with the despair of a warrior who knew he had been completely defeated. Human forces, this is Admiral Vexthul of the Remnant Council Fleet. We acknowledge your superiority and request terms for surrender. Our ships are without supplies, our crews are demoralized, and our homeworld has declared us traitors for failing to conquer your primitive world. We place ourselves at your mercy. President Walsh's response was broadcast throughout the solar system and beyond, carried by the alien communication networks that Dr. Maria's viruses had captured. Her words were heard on every Council world and in every slave labor camp, spreading hope to billions of oppressed beings who had never believed that freedom was possible. Admiral Vexthul, your surrender is accepted. Your crews will be treated according to the laws of war, and those who cooperate will be allowed to return to their homeworlds when this conflict ends. But understand this: Earth does not make war on species, only on oppressors. Any of your people who choose to fight alongside us for the liberation of enslaved worlds will be welcomed as allies. The President's offer split the remaining Council forces, with nearly half of their crews choosing to join Earth's cause rather than return to face execution for their failure. These defectors brought with them detailed intelligence about Council military capabilities and the locations of worlds where billions of enslaved beings waited for liberation. Captain Elena Foster was given command of the first liberation mission, leading a combined fleet of human and alien defector ships toward a star system where 3 different species were held in slavery by a Council garrison. Her mission was to demonstrate that Earth's promise of freedom was real, and that human forces could project power across interstellar distances. The liberation of the Kepler 442 system took only 18 hours. The Council garrison, already demoralized by reports of Earth's victory, surrendered after a brief battle that showcased the devastating effectiveness of human tactical doctrine. 3 billion enslaved beings were freed in a single day, and images of their celebration were transmitted throughout the galaxy as proof that the Council's reign of terror was ending. Commander Nick Palmer led the ground forces that secured the prison camps on Kepler 442b, finding conditions that horrified even battle-hardened Marines who had fought in the Solar War. The aliens who had been enslaved there had never seen humans before, but they quickly learned that these strange bipedal creatures from an unknown world were willing to fight and die for the freedom of complete strangers. As liberation fleets spread throughout Council space, President Walsh prepared to deliver the message that would end the Galactic Council forever. She had waited for this moment, when Earth's forces had demonstrated their power across dozens of star systems, and when the momentum of rebellion was unstoppable. The time had come to offer the Council a choice between surrender and total destruction. The final transmission was broadcast from Earth to every inhabited world in the galaxy, using alien technology that had been improved by human engineering. President Walsh sat at her desk in the Oval Office, but her words would be heard by trillions of beings across thousands of light years, carrying humanity's ultimatum to the farthest reaches of Council space. To the members of the Galactic Council, this is President Patricia Walsh of the United Earth Government. 6 months ago, you came to our world demanding surrender. You destroyed our installations and killed our people to demonstrate your power. You believed we were primitive and helpless. You were wrong. She paused, letting her words sink in across the galaxy before continuing with the cold certainty of absolute victory. Your invasion fleet lies in ruins around our solar system. Your advanced technology has been captured, studied, and improved upon by our engineers. Your superior warriors have learned that humans fight with a ferocity you cannot comprehend when our survival is threatened. The President leaned forward, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's moral authority. But we are not like you. We do not seek conquest or domination. We fight only for freedom, both our own and that of every enslaved species in your empire. We offer you this single warning. Earth is now aware of your existence, and we are coming. Her next words would be remembered as the moment when the age of Council tyranny ended forever. To the oppressed peoples of the galaxy, help is coming. Human liberation fleets are moving toward your worlds, bringing weapons, supplies, and the promise that no species will ever again bow to Council rule. Your long night of slavery is ending. President Walsh stood up, her final words carrying the full authority of a species that had proven itself in battle against impossible odds. To the Council and its member races, you have exactly 1 year to begin dismantling your empire and freeing your subject worlds. After that, you will discover exactly why you should not have messed with Earth. As the transmission ended, liberation fleets throughout the galaxy began their final advance toward Council strongholds. On 1,000 worlds, enslaved species rose in rebellion, knowing that Earth's forces would support their fight for freedom. The Galactic Council, which had ruled through fear for centuries, learned what it meant to be afraid. The age of human expansion into the galaxy had begun, and nothing in the universe would ever be the same again. Earth, once a lonely blue world unknown to the rest of the galaxy, had become the shining beacon of hope that would light the way to freedom for every oppressed species among the stars.